Yeah, Chris.
Try it like this now. When I went to college, I did the financial aid application bit, and they awarded me work study. So I was surfing through all of the jobs that are offered through work study, and some of the jobs are quite amazing. The list was quite long. And I wanted to be a bio major and an English major, two opposite ends of the spectrum. That later proved impossible, but I was willing to go for it, and I took a job as the glass washer in a medical research lab. And this lab was a biophysicist lab, and what their job was, what they were doing was measuring the tension of mouse heart cells, because apparently what happens in a heart attack is your cell walls explode. So if you mate and you are in bed and your mate turns to you and says, "I love you with all my heart," and then has a heart attack, you could know that maybe that's the ultimate act of love right there, just bursting with love. So the way they get these cells is they take a mouse heart and they slough off the cells. So the heart is out of the mouse, it's not beating, but when they inject the potassium and the calcium into it, then the heart starts beating, it sloughs off the cells, and then they put the cells into an incredibly large machine that pulls them apart, and they measure the tension. So I thought this was really cool, and it was the beginning of the end of my medical career right there, because you could figure out that when the scientist was looking at this process, they're looking about the mechanics of the experiment and the science behind it and wondering everything is going right. And I'm looking at it completely entranced at the beating heart, and all I can think of is Edgar Allan Poe and the telltale heart, and it's really come to life. This story's come to life, and I got to write something about it. So there's the difference between an English literature person and a medical research person. Yeah, I told that to the head researcher there, and he said, the glassware is piling up in the sink, so please start washing. So I took my second semester. I got another job, and this job was with the Museum of Natural History at Michigan, and it was with the herpetology department, which is the study of reptiles and amphibians. And when I got there, Greg, just a great guy, he was in charge of the labs, and he made me feel really welcome and sort of mentored me along. And when he first came in there, when I came in there, and he showed me around the lab, he introduced me to all the researchers and professors and so forth. He showed me the outstanding and astounding collection of specimens that Michigan has, and that's just in the reptile and the amphibian department. So if you're like a 6-year-old kid, this is, wonderland for you, with all these creatures, And then he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, "Well, what do you want me to do? I don't know, I don't really know what's going on here, So I'm here to do whatever you want me to do." And he goes, "Well, let me tell you something. We have a lot of specimens and a lot of need for preserving these specimens." And then he laid it on me about what he wanted me to do in real life, because he wanted me to help preserve the specimens, and helping to preserve the specimens meant skinning the dead specimens and then taking them up to the bug room where the beetles would clean off the bones, and they would freeze the beetles so they were not running around in the museum loose, and then catalog the bones and put them in a drawer, and they would sit there and wait for a researcher to come and pull them out and study the bones. And I was to be the amphibian and reptile skinner. And I thought, all right, I think I can do this. And the freezer was full of specimens. People were bringing in specimens from all over, roadkill specimens, pet specimens, and so I had no shortage of work. And you had to get over the smell a little bit, but it was detailed work, and I'm pretty good at that, and I got really good at it. Learned useful skills with the X-Acto knife and how to get skin off of these the toads that are really smaller than your hand, and big, huge snakes. Well, I got really good at it. So good, I guess Greg went around the lab extolling the virtues of my X-Acto knife skills, and he ended up telling one of the professors, who is the world's leading herpetologist in some specimens, kind of a revered person in the field. And so one night I'm skinning something. It was probably a snake, or maybe it was a lizard. I don't really know, but. He comes up to me and he says, I've heard about your skinning skills, and I said, oh, thanks, doctor, and I have a special project for you. And I said, oh, really, right away I'm feel proud now, because he's got a special project for me. He's the world's leading person on some reptiles, and goes to Africa all the time, and just sort of this mythological figure in the herpetology world, which no one has ever heard of, really. But, so he says, I would like to have you preserve the hemipenes of snakes. And I'm like, what's a hemipene, Because I'm thinking the first word is hemi, and I'm going right back to my car days, and I'm thinking hemi, engine, so I'm reasoning out that this must be some powerful organ inside the snake that he's studying, and he has selected me to preserve these things. And he says, the hemipenes of the snake are the snake penises, and they have two. So right away I started rethinking my whole choice on how I'm going to be reincarnated as an animal, because I'm thinking slithering on your belly for a living is not bad when you have two hemipenes. Must be something there, but got to get some benefits, right? So he says, yeah, they have two of them, and he showed me, took a specimen out of the jar, showed me where they were located, and he said they're inverted. And you have to blow them out and then cut them off. So I'm thinking, all right, listen, Doc, right now your credibility as the world's leading whatever is kind of going down, because now you're asking me to blow a snake who's dead and cut off his penis, and there are certain things I won't do for science, and this probably is one of them. So then he says, no, this is, you use water in a syringe to get the hemipenes out, because they're inverted in the snake's tail. And so he showed me how to do it, and so I spent the rest of the semester, getting dead snakes erect and cutting off their penises. So if you ever need somebody that has this skill, feel free to give me a call.